What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot to get into, such as UCLA getting not one but two wins over UC-Irvine. And how about John Speraw getting his 200th win as UCLA's men's volleyball coach and his 400th win overall as a head coach in general. Just an amazing feat for John Speraw. Absolutely amazing. Can he keep it up and get that NCAA championship with the Bruins this year? And how about BYU getting a gritty win over this past Saturday over Concordia? But how about Uriel Batista? That dude went off. And how about Pepperdine handing GCU its first loss of the season last Friday? Impressive stuff from the Waves as they turned the tide. And speaking of the MPSF, USC managed to get their first conference win. Great stuff from the young Trojans. Also, Week 9 is going to be something special, so you won't want to miss it. And the first week of the NCAA Beach Volleyball season wasn't really too surprising. But you know what time it is. Hand me a volleyball. Set up the net, because I'm about to serve you up some volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday morning, Tuesday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you have made your way into episode 183 of Set Point. Yes, this is officially episode 183. Unlike last week where I accidentally put episode 183, where last week is officially episode 182. This week is 183. So, sorry for not being live yesterday. Yesterday I was out of the house. For those that are listening live, I was out of the house all day and I had to do some other things outside of the house. So unfortunately I could not do Set Point on Monday. So that's why I was unable to go live on my usual Monday, but it's all good. But with all that said and done, next week I should be back on my original Monday evening at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern go live start time. But with all that said and done, let us get on into that volleyball goodness. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio to provide the platform to go live on. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on all the social media platforms, whether it's Twitter, TikTok, or Instagram. You can follow them on those platforms at IE Sports Radio. They're also available on Facebook if you still use that sort of thing. All you just gotta do is type in IE, then sports, then radio in the search bar, and then like them, and then follow them on Facebook. We also have a website, www.iesportsradio.com, and once you go there, you'll see a Patreon link at the top, and once you start subscribing, donations start at $5 a month. This will get you a shout from all of our shows, all 27 of our shows, including this one, and higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to IESRU, the podcasting university of IE Sports Radio, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment, with Larry B. Because for the past 8 years and counting, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel, to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports or cities from all over the country. All the while, we've been continuing to be by the fans and for the fans. And with your help, we're ready to take the next biggest step. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. Shout out to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised Apparel, Key to the Gate, Marcus Losgreat, and a donor that wishes to remain anonymous. Also, when you go to iesportsradio.com and you go to our shows, go to Set Point, and you'll see a little something there when you go to Set Point. You'll see what it is, and it's basically something to help out set point and to help keep the lights on, and it would basically help me out, and it's basically my whatchamacallit, my Cash App or my Venmo to help keep the lights on. If you want to donate to help me make a little bit of pocket change, then so be it. But if you don't want to help donate, then it's all good. You don't have to donate if you don't want to, but if you do want to donate, then you would definitely be doing me a favor. But with all that said and done, let's get into that volleyball action. So we had a lot of volleyball action happen last week. So we'll start off on Wednesday. We had Loyola showing no signs of letting up as they took down Lewis in 4 sets. It was not a surprise as those Ramblers rambled on. They have first place in the palm of their hands for the time being, as they're 2 games ahead of everyone else, which is basically Lindenwood, Ball State, and Ohio State. And they are just running, I wouldn't say they're running away with it, but they're just on a tear. Parker Van Buren is just doing his thing. Now, to the credit of Lewis, they are showing they didn't get blown out, but I think Loyola is playing on a whole nother level. And I really think that Loyola is becoming the class of the MIVA, and I really think that they're putting it together, and they've really improved ever since the losses to Concordia and Long Beach State. And honestly, in that loss to Long Beach State, they didn't even play that bad. Like, yes, the sets that they won were close, but they almost took down Long Beach State on the road, and that's never an easy feat. So, hats off to Loyola for all that they've done and their dominance in the MIVA this season. And then going over to the MPSF. So on Wednesday, we had Pepperdine falling behind 0-2 against GCU. And then at that moment, I was like, okay, well, GCU is probably going to wind up winning just because GCU was able to win in Southern California. Now, the difference was between beating Pepperdine and beating USC was possibly playing Pepperdine and playing USC was that USC was young, while Pepperdine was experienced. So, my mistake was thinking that Pepperdine was done after being down 0-2. Pepperdine wound up taking the next 2 sets, and then it went 5. And it was just back and forth in that 5th set. And then on match point, I think it was 15-14, the referee unfortunately called a ball handling violation on the Waves, and that was how GCU managed to escape with that victory. And unfortunately for the Waves, that was how they wound up losing. And I feel I'm not gonna really bag on the refs just because referees are human, but unfortunately that's the most heartbreaking way to go out. But unfortunately that's how it is sometimes. Fortunately for Pepperdine, they were able to get revenge in the Friday match, as just like before, Pepperdine fell behind 0-2 in the match, but then in the remainder of the sets, it was the same thing. Pepperdine took the 3rd set, and they narrowly took the 4th set, and then that 5th set, they just bolted out to an early lead, and they never allowed GCU to get into a rhythm in that 5th set, and they handed GCU their first loss of the season. So at that point, it was basically, I should also mention that Benedict lost on Wednesday as well. So it was at that point when GCU and Pepperdine were going 5 for the second time. I said the 3 teams that were undefeated were Hawaii, Charleston, and GCU. Now at that moment, it was Hawaii and Charleston. Also on Friday, we had Charleston narrowly escaping defeat. They were down 0-2 to George Mason, and then they managed to escape with the reverse sweep against George Mason. It was their first victory over the Patriots, and I actually was at a volleyball match, UCLA, UC Irvine, and then I was reading that backwards. I thought George Mason reverse swept Charleston, but it was the other way around. So for George Mason, it was a heartbreaker, but spoiler alert, Charleston got swept the night after against George Mason. So Charleston no longer undefeated, and the only undefeated team in NCAA men's volleyball is Hawaii. So this means Hawaii has basically stood the test of time, and this is kind of not surprising. Hawaii has obviously been dominant throughout a majority of the season, and they have not even gone 5. They have dropped a few sets here and there, but honestly, they are basically the alpha male of NCAA men's volleyball this season, and honestly, it's going to be interesting how they look in Big West Conference play. They are looking really good, though. But now they're going to get tested next week. This week, they had LIU, and they swept LIU. Now I think this week is going to be where everyone gets to play their primary position, and then all the starters basically make their way back onto the court. So as I mentioned, I was at the first matchup between UCLA and UC Irvine, and it was quite the match. So the first set, UC Irvine really came to play. They were just bombing serves, and they were just spiking that ball. It was basically an interesting first set. UC Irvine took that first set 25-17. I was thinking maybe we get ourselves the upset special. But then that second set, UC Irvine had an early 5-0 lead, and I'm thinking, maybe, just maybe, Irvine could take a 2-0 lead, put UCLA on a lot of pressure on the road, but then UCLA starts picking up the pressure. A great timeout was called by John Speraw. UCLA takes the second set 25-23. Then in the third set, it was early in the third set, and it was 9-7 at one point. And then John Speraw, in that third set, he used up both his challenges, and unfortunately, he was out of challenges. Now, for most coaches who don't have challenges, this could be at a big disadvantage, but for him, who has coached USA volleyball, I think he's used to playing the challenge game or not having challenges or whatnot. I think he's used to the challenge game or not having challenges. So I think that was big right there. And for me, I think for UCLA, they were able to overcome adversity time after time after time after time in that match against UC Irvine. They won the third set 25-19. Now, I also heard that UC Irvine's top player, Francesco Sani, also got hurt in that match, and he wasn't as effective. He finished with 6 kills. He played all 4 sets, but unfortunately, he wasn't that big explosive himself. Then in the fourth set, UCLA won it 25-16, and unfortunately for Irvine, they just could not get that big win over UCLA. For the Bruins, though, it was just business as usual, as they were just still looking sharp as ever. They proved themselves as the number 2 team in the nation, and honestly, they were looking as strong and dominant as ever, as leading. UCLA had a balanced offense. UCLA had Alex Knight leading the way with 15 kills. Ethan Champlin had 13 kills. Ido David had 12 kills. Merrick McHenry, 10 kills. Andrew Rowan, like I said, this dude has been a stud. 44 assists. UCLA also had 10 service aces. When UCLA is hitting their serves, that's when they're at their best. Yes, they will have a night where they have a lot of missed serves, but when they are serving tough and when they are hitting those serves, they are tough to stop. Andrew Rowan had 3 service aces. David had 3 service aces. Knight had 2 aces. Knight was very on his A game, and that's why I had to interview those 4 hitters, just because they didn't just have one guy taking over the match. They were very balanced in their offense. So overall for UCLA, it was just a great win, and that was John Speraw's 200th win as the Bruins head coach. So it was just an incredible win for the Bruins. I actually caught up with John Speraw following the match, and I discussed what the win meant to him and how his team has been playing so cerebral following the loss to Penn State.
All right, this is Teran Rodriguez of Set Point with John Speraw of UCLA, head coach of the men's volleyball team of UCLA. All right, John, your team managed to pull off another big victory as your team pulled off a big road victory over UC Irvine. What were the keys to taking down the Anteaters after dropping that first set?
I think you have to say serve and pass, really. First set, we didn't pass the ball particularly well, and then we steadied out a little bit in the middle of the second set. I thought our ability to come back in that set and play better in the middle of that second set, I think, was critical for the match. And then we played much better from there. So I haven't seen the final numbers, but that's what jumps out at me.
Your offense was pretty balanced as Alex Knight had 15 kills, Ethan Champlin had 13 kills, Ido David had 12 kills, Mary Henry 10 kills, and obviously Andrew Rowan has been dishing the ball out distributively and nicely. What can you say about your offense and how Andrew continues to distribute the ball perfectly?
Well, especially because he's learning all these new environments that he's never played in. You can see in the first set he missed a bunch of serves. He didn't look very comfortable, missed a couple sets. And then again, he steadied out. So I think he's doing a great job, and I think that a lot of contributions from a lot of people and different guys on different nights. So I'm very pleased with the outcome.
Now, ever since the loss to Penn State, sorry, I have to bring that up, you've all played really cerebral. You looked really good against Long Beach the past two matches. You looked really well against BYU. You looked good tonight, and then you've got UC Irvine on Sunday. What's it going to take to continue to play cerebral and continue to look and play cerebral going forward?
Well, I like hearing that. I'd like to think that we're out there executing what we hope to do, and I think we still have a lot to learn. I still see the team, even results aside, I still see a team that has a lot of room to grow. Part of that is because Andrew's his first time setting, but I feel like we know exactly what it is we need to do to get better, the skills that will make a difference in the long term for us. That's going to take some training. We still have a lot of upside. Obviously, real happy with where we're at right now, but we have a long season left with some challenges ahead of us, and it'll be Sunday.
So that was my post-game interview with John Speraw, UCLA men's volleyball coach. UCLA hit 364 in that match. They really picked it up following that first set. They hit 240 in that first set, and then after that, they hit more than 300. They even hit a blistering 560 in that first set. They had 0 hitting errors in that fourth set as well, as they also held UC Irvine to under 200 following that first set. So for UC Irvine, they hit 150 the rest of the night. They also got outblocked 10.5 to 7. One good thing for UC Irvine was that they had their service ace to service error ratio was actually very impressive. They had 9 aces to only 5 service errors, which was not bad at all. The only problem was that they kind of got outdone in every other category, except for digs, where they barely outdid UCLA in that category, 33 to 32. So overall for UC Irvine, they weren't bad. It's just that UC Irvine just did not have the horses to keep up with UCLA. And the second match was almost as eerily the same as the first match, except it was a little bit more tighter in that second match, as the sets were a little bit closer, but unfortunately for UC Irvine, UCLA came away with the 4-set victory. So for UCLA, it's still business as usual for them, as they're still number 2 in the AVCA coaches poll. Spoiler alert, as, again, Hawaii didn't lose, so there's no doubt in my mind, and UCLA logically didn't lose, so there was no way UCLA was going to go down. And Long Beach State didn't play, so there was no way they were going to go up. And Penn State beat NJIT, so there was no way that Penn State was going to go up or down. So there was no way that was going to happen. So for UC Irvine's side of things, again, I don't think that UC Irvine was bad in any sort of way. It's just that after that first set, they just rapidly cooled off. Now, if UC Irvine takes that second set, what happens? They're up 2-0. Is it a whole different perspective? Perhaps. But does UC Irvine make the adjustments to possibly find a way to close out that third set, or do they take that fourth set, or do they eventually find a way to take that fifth set? Or does UCLA find a way to basically just reverse sweep their way to victory? This was a special night for UC Irvine as they honored their 2013 national championship team, as that was the 10-year anniversary of their team having won the national championship, which I thought was very special for them. And that was the year after John Speraw departed from UC Irvine, and that was actually David Kniffin's first year as the Anteaters head coach. I actually caught up to Kniffin regarding the match, as well as the honoring of the 2023 national championship team. Fair warning about this interview. This did have some background music because Kniffin wanted to play some music to shoo away some of the outsiders who were still roaming around, like some of the fans that were still around, just because it was technically closing time. So here's my post-game interview with UC Irvine men's volleyball coach David Kniffin. All right, Coach. Obviously, it was a great battle between you and the former UC Irvine coach, John Speraw, but your team fell short. What were some positives in this game against UCLA?
Well, I think anytime you can hang with an opponent for a set or two, you're demonstrating that you're in the conversation of competitive enough. And I think that's something we knew coming into this match, but it was nice to demonstrate that. And obviously we had a let-off in Game 3 and 4, but I will say in the last couple points when we were down by 8 or 9 points, guys were still fighting for balls and diving across the court. And that's the competitive mindset that we want to see point to point.
In the match, you also had another setter.
Dylan Jai.
Dylan Zai. Is that a little new experiment for you all, or have you been tinkering with a 6-2 offense, or what's that?
Dylan's been coming in with Will Darcy in kind of a double sub look. They've been consistent just about every set we've played this year. So he only gets a few rotations in, but he's usually in for 3 or 4 rotations at a time and then comes back out.
Obviously, Huiet has been doing well offensively, but you also got some good contributions from Doug and Francesco. What can you say about your offense, and what's it going to take for it to take that next step?
Well, I mean, with better passing becomes better offensive numbers, so that's one thing that we'd want to regulate. And this is a good serving team that we played against tonight, so not relying on the pass, but also just some areas that we made maybe errors that maybe they weren't going to result in kills, but we didn't have to give the ball away.
Now, away from this match, you honored the 2013 National Championship team. What was that moment like, since that was your first year as head coach, and it was the 10-year anniversary?
I mean, it was fun to see everybody, and I enjoyed all the phone calls kind of leading up to this too, just reconnecting with guys, so... but I think what was really neat was hearing the guys on the current squad talk about how cool it was to have the alumni here. I mean, we recognize this place wasn't built on the actions of a single season this year. It's been built on the actions of, 250 alums over 40 years.
Now, seeing John Speraw, who previously coached at UC Irvine, what was that feeling like for you?
Well, it's nothing new. I mean, it's always fun to coach because he's a good coach, and it's fun to see how he organizes his talented teams. But, this kind of feels like another match now.
All right, and obviously non-conference play is starting to wrap up, as next week you've got, obviously Sunday you've got UCLA, then next week you've got Stanford and Penn State, and then you're starting to close in on Big West Conference play. How important are these non-conference matches, as you told me you've got the toughest schedule altogether?
It feels that way. I mean, there's two components to the non-conference schedule. One is if you win consistently enough, then you put yourself in an at-large bid conversation almost regardless of how conference play goes. So that's one part of it, which could still be beneficial for us. But the other part is just, if you want to be the best, you got to play the best. And I really believe that. I mean, I'm not here to try to put together 20-win seasons, or I'd be scheduling knockover teams. We're trying to play the best teams we can because it's more fun than playing teams we're just going to go out and beat. So we try to bring the best teams we can to us. We try to go out and pursue playing the best teams wherever we can, and I think, our alumni and our fans and as true competitors, I mean, that's what we're looking for.
So that was my post-game interview with UC Irvine men's volleyball coach David Kniffin. So I mentioned that he does have a very tough schedule this year, and you have to look at some of the body of work that UC Irvine is playing, because this is one of the more tougher schedules in the nation, just because you look at the schedule. They had to play Lewis at BYU. Okay, well, Lewis at the time was ranked. They're not ranked anymore. They had to play USC here, which USC is still ranked despite all their hardships in terms of being young. BYU, they were ranked, and BYU currently ranked in the top 10. GCU, current top 5 team. Pepperdine, current top 10 team. UCLA, top 3 team. Stanford, they've got coming up. That's current top 10. Penn State, that is currently top 3 team. And then they've got the Big West. Now, currently in the Big West, their first 2 opponents, well, their first 4 opponents, or the first 4 matches, UC San Diego and UC Santa Barbara, because they've got back-to-backs. They've got UC San Diego, like, for example, they've got UC San Diego 1 at home and then 1 away, and then UC Santa Barbara 1 away and then 1 at home. Those 2 are not ranked. But for CSUN, that team is ranked, and then after CSUN, they've got Hawaii, and then they close out the regular season at Long Beach State, then at home against Long Beach State. So it's very important for UC Irvine to have these big-time matches, just because, like David Kniffin says, and the old saying goes, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, and if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. So it's not stressed out enough. Like, UC Irvine has to play some of these really tough opponents, and eventually, if they want to win that national championship, they're going to have to play some darn good opponents. And I didn't even take into consideration that at-large bid, and I don't know if that could be taken into consideration, just because can the Big West take 3 at-larges? Just because, I don't know. It's like, I know maybe if they get to the final, or if they get to the finals, because even if they lose, I could see the finalists of the Big West Conference making it to the NCAA tournament as an at-large, just because that is a strong schedule that they're playing. Like, you can't take anything away from UC Irvine and how tough of a schedule that is. Like, it does not get any tougher than what they're playing at. Like, even CSUN would be considered as a tough opponent. But I don't know. I think getting to the final of that Big West Conference tournament would probably be the safety zone. I don't know if... I just don't know. I just don't think that semifinals would be that safety threshold. But I'm not Vinny Lopes. I'm not like the full-on expert on that. I just think finals of the Big West Conference tournament is basically the threshold. But I digress on that. So that's that for that UCLA-UC Irvine matchup. So there was actually another match I covered on Saturday, and I actually covered some MPSF action. I covered BYU Concordia. So for this little matchup right here, I actually didn't think about going to this matchup, but then I was like, you know what? I've got some time to kill. I'll go to this matchup, even though I didn't have it on my agenda. And even though one team is ranked in the top 10 and one team is probably not close to being ranked. So backstory for BYU. So their star setter, it's not Cooper Jarman, it's Heath Hughes. He is a transfer from Grand Canyon. He actually was supposed to start. He was supposed to be the starting setter. He actually got hurt. So then they actually went with a different setter in Cooper Jarman, but then he got hurt. He hurt his finger. So now BYU is on their third setter, according to head coach Shawn Olmstead. And that setter just so happens to be, as I mentioned this last week, Noah Hain. So I was a little confused at first, and I apologize if I kind of mixed things up last week. So this Noah Hain guy is their third setter. And this was actually the second matchup between BYU and Concordia. So the first matchup between BYU and Concordia, let's just say BYU did not have too much trouble. And I actually arrived at this matchup, and I told Riley Salmon, I hope we get a barn burner tonight. And sure enough, we actually did. So the first set between BYU and Concordia. So first set, it looked like BYU was going to take this one. They were up 22-19, but then Concordia, being the gutty little Eagles that they are, they closed out the set on a 7-2 run, and they took the first set 26-24. Now the second set, it looked like it was going to be another Concordia taking that second set, but then BYU was able to hold them off, take that second set 26-24. BYU actually led 24-21, and then Concordia was able to tie it up at 24-24. But then Mix Romanis was able to put down the kill to give them the set. It's actually pronounced Mix Romanis. I think I said Mix Raminis or something along those lines. I think everyone's been mispronouncing Mix's last name. So it's Mix Romanis. So it's like ominous except Romanis. But other than that, third set. So for Concordia, Uriel Batista, I've said a lot of good things about him. He was just willing his way. And I'll say this, he did not have the best game, and his coach also had said this in the post-game interview, or my post-game interview. So Uriel Batista was just blasting through the block, and one BYU fan behind me was like, okay, BYU, we got to shut that kid down. It's like, it's going to be easier said than done if you ask me, buddy. Eventually, errors kind of caught up with BYU, and eventually Concordia took that third set 25-19. Then the fourth set, Concordia led 16-12, and I'm thinking we might actually see an upset here. And we might see Concordia win its second ranked win of the season and its second straight year with a top 10 win. But BYU was able to come back, and they were able to take that fourth set. This time they took the set off of a back row attacker violation. It was another one of those unfortunate calls, kind of like the GCU Pepperdine game where the match ended off of a ball handling error violation. But this time this was a back row attacker violation. It was a 10-foot line violation, and Concordia's fans just could not believe it. And that's just an unfortunate judgment line error I wouldn't say judgment line error, but it's just it's just unfortunate that Yuri sadly had his foot over the line where he took off. As BYU took the fourth set 31-29. Now the fifth set was just so amazing. Fifth set, it was basically like a boxing match. Neither team led by more than 1 point throughout that match. It was 8-7 Concordia at the side change. But then it was, I want to say it was like 11-10, and then BYU took the lead at 12-11, and then they eventually got to match point, and then they won off a walk-off block, or a block-off. They knew the ball was going to Yuri Batista, and then they knew the block was going to be going that way, and that was how the match ended, and that was how BYU survived on the road. Mix Romanis led the way with 16 kills. Luke Benson, another hero, 14 kills. He hit .333. Trent Mosier, 11 kills. BYU hit .290. Not the best offensive night, but that fifth set, BYU hit 647. They had 11 kills, 0 hitting errors. That was huge for those Cougars. In a night where the offense wasn't clicking for them, the fourth and fifth set was where they came up big when it mattered most. I kind of think that Concordia got a little tired as the match went on. They just could not get that big dig or that big block that just propelled them, that just couldn't propel them to that victory. But for Concordia, Yuri Batista led the way with 32 kills. I was told by Ben Roseman, the SID, that is a school record. He had 64 swings, which also is a school record. So he made history. Unfortunately, it was in a loss, but it still was amazing. He had over half the kills that Concordia had. Scott Montez had 10 kills as well. Concordia hit 303. But and they hit much better than they did in the first set. They were hitting in the 100 department, but then they were hitting over 300 as the match went on. Unfortunately, they just could not get that rhythm and flow, which is unfortunate for them, as it's just going to get much more tougher. But they do have some other chances. This week they're going to have a tough one, as they've got UCLA this week. We all know that's going to be a tough little matchup for those Golden Eagles. But we'll see what happens with Concordia. Maybe they could pull off an upset here or there in the MPSF. After the game, I actually caught up with BYU men's volleyball coach Shawn Olmstead to talk about the MPSF and his team's gutty win over Concordia.
All right, this is Teran Rodriguez of Set Point with Shawn Olmstead, BYU men's volleyball coach, after his team picked up a thrilling 5-set win over Concordia-Irvine. All right, Coach, your team picked up that big win. Your team finished 2-0 on the week, and you're 2-2 in MPSF play. What were the keys to taking down a scrappy Concordia team tonight?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, Concordia was better prepared to compete, kind of out-hearted our guys. You know, our guys down the stretch came around, but we were hurting ourselves almost the entire match until the end of the midway through the fourth. And then, we were a lot better then, and then into the fifth set. So it was just about us being a lot better on our side, but I don't want to take away anything from Concordia because they just played with a ton of heart. They were ready to battle in a match a lot more than our guys were at the start. And, we talked with our guys about that. And so credit to Riley and getting his guys pumped and fired up to go compete and win a match. So I'm proud of our guys, though, for sticking in it. We changed the lineup, starting midway through the second set. I think we changed it all over the place. And for the most part, the guys responded really, really well. So I'm really proud of them for doing that, because it can be a tough match. Concordia battles at home. They always do. And I think Riley gets a ton out of those guys. And so that can be pretty hard.
So in that first set, unfortunately, that kind of slipped away from you. What did you have to do to make sure the second and fourth set didn't have to slip away from you?
Yeah, it just came down to a bunch of mistakes on our end. We weren't making those guys play. We weren't putting any good service pressure on them. We were bailing them out of everything. I mean, look at down the stretch. Look at the entire match on our service performance. We've got guys that they've got to hit it in, and then which allows us to maybe be a little tougher with some other guys, and we can have those guys have a little more of a green light. And so really, out of timeouts, we were missing serves. In those situations that the other coach is doing all they can to get you out of rhythm. It worked tonight for us and got us out of rhythm. I think we came out of a handful of timeouts that they had called while we were serving and right to miss the serve. So the momentum kind of shifted. That was the plan for those guys. That was kind of the scheme. And we couldn't overcome that a couple times. So, yeah.
Having a player like Mix Ramirez, how amazing is it to have him take over that match with his booming serves and his booming kills?
Yeah, Mix is learning and growing every day, and we're seeing so many great things out of him. We're seeing that. We're seeing the leadership. We're seeing him learn every day, and he's really, really done a great job for us. And most importantly, kind of doing all he can to lead by example, being a great teammate, taking good swings, tough swings, and down the stretch we needed him in those moments, and he did well. And I thought Luke Benson came off the bench and did a pretty good job too, taking a lot of big swings. And an error here or there didn't get him too rattled. And he came back. He's a big physical kid that can hit around the block, and we got to help him be able to do that a little bit more with even more confidence. But Mix is, he's one of the leaders on our team, and there's a reason why.
Next week, you're back in MPSF action at Grand Canyon. They obviously lost their first match. What can you say about the MPSF, as UCLA is obviously the top dog, but you also have GCU looking really sharp. Pepperdine, I think, has turned the tide, no pun intended. Stanford looks pretty promising. USC, even though they're young, they're still scrappy. Concordia obviously was Concordia, and the rest goes on and on.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a pretty tough conference. It always is for the most part, but this is a pretty interesting year, and, hats off to Matt, what he's, those guys at Grand Canyon, what they're doing. They're playing really tough and playing really confident, playing really well. And like you said, UCLA's, we had to deal with them last weekend, and they put it on us. And so it's an exciting exciting year for the MPSF. I don't want to leave anybody out, but you kind of mentioned it all. Pep's good. Everyone's good. Look at Concordia's gonna beat teams. They're gonna get wins. And I think it's going to be a back and forth pretty much all year, right up into the MPSF tournament all the way to the end. That's what I really believe.
Coach, thank you for your time. Congratulations on the win, and good luck the rest of the way.
I appreciate the coverage. Thank you very much.
So that was my post-game interview with Shawn Olmstead. I know it was a little lengthy, but he actually had some good things to say. So first and foremost, he said some good things about Mix. Yeah, and his team was pretty balanced. Something I did not bring up was BYU's service errors. They missed 26 serves, but I want to say they had like 20-ish serves missed before like the fourth set or before the fifth set. So I think they really cleaned up their serves before the fifth set, and I think that was what really, that was the turning point of the match. I really think that BYU turned it around in the serving department before that fifth set, because if they don't turn it around in that fifth set, that 26 service errors turns into like 30-some service errors. Because I was thinking, this team is looking a lot like UCLA Junior. No offense to UCLA, of course, because UCLA missed a lot of serves. They missed 9 serves in set 1, and he even mentioned it, that they were shooting themselves in the foot in terms of that, and they were missing serves coming out of timeouts, and it's hard to win games when you make errors like that. So, overall for BYU, it was just a gutty win on the road, in a pretty hostile environment, too. And bear in mind that you don't get challenges at Concordia. There is unfortunately no challenge system at Concordia which allows you to challenge. Sadly, Concordia does not have the technology system to allow them to have challenges across the court, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So, but for the Concordia side of things, one thing that they did have as a plus is that they had 2 players in double digits in terms of digs, as they had Makai Lipson with 11 digs, Jacob Riley with 11 digs, and then Makai Lipson with 10 digs. And then Scott Montez also had 9 digs to go along with his 10 kills. As a team, Concordia outdug BYU 50-41, and overall, that was a big plus for the Eagles. Concordia also out-hit BYU 303-290, which was not bad at all. So, again, they just fell a few points short, and sadly, again, they just did not have that big burst of energy to basically separate themselves from BYU. And I think BYU kind of wore out Concordia, just because Concordia just could not have that big defensive play to keep that ball away from BYU, and BYU was just getting their way kill after kill with Mix and Luke and Gavin and pretty much everyone. They were just having their own way. And that's nothing disrespectful to say about BYU, but it's just that everything just was basically clicking in that fifth set offensively for BYU. I caught up with Riley Salmon, the head coach of Concordia, following his team's loss. We discussed the loss and how his team looked better in this game than the previous game, as well as Erie's big game and what they're going to do going forward to make sure they register a big win in the MPSF.
All right, Coach. Obviously, it was a tough one. Almost got your second-ranked win of the season. Almost got your first MPSF win of the season, but you fell short in the thriller. What were some positives you could take away in this match against BYU in the second go-around?
Yeah, I think what you said earlier when you first walked in, we wanted a barn burner tonight. I think we got it. Our guys responded. We played really poorly last night, and they all knew that we were a better team than that. So we just wanted to come out and play as hard as we could and play for the guys next to us and show what Concordia volleyball is about. I think that people don't know what it's about quite yet. So we're showing it is about how hard you can play, how much we can compete every play. And hats off to BYU. They played really good in the clutch moments, and they're an experienced team. They made some big plays when they needed to.
Now, in that first set, you kind of stole that first set from them as you were down 22-19, then you outscored them 7-2. But then that fourth set, you had 2 match points, and then they kind of snagged that fourth set away from you. Like, what do you think you could have done in that fourth set to try to put them away?
Yeah, we have young players. You have to keep getting in that position, and you got to be comfortable when you have those positions. When you have match point, you need to be acting like it's 0-0. You shouldn't be expected or acting any different. I just think we have to keep getting in that position over and over again, and I think our guys will respond the next time. Hats off to them, though, man. They made some good plays when they had to.
Yuri obviously had himself a big night, 32 kills. I was told that was the school record, and 64 attempts is supposedly the school record. What can you say about Yuri and how he pretty much tried to single-handedly will the team to victory?
Yeah, he was really discouraged by how he played yesterday. So he challenged himself to come out and play like he can. The guy's a world-class player. He can go play in Europe and play professionally for a long time when he has that type of mentality and he's playing for his teammates. I think the whole entire team did that tonight. We played for each other, and it's really easy to coach, and it's fun when that happens.
Jacob also had 11 digs, and Mackay also had 10 digs, and then you also got 9 digs from Scott. What can you say about your defense and your passing, and what were some other takeaways you could have from this game in this match?
Did we outdig them or did they outdig us?
50-41 you all.
We won?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's our every match we go into, we want to win the digging battle. For us, it's a pride thing, but we need to work a little bit more on our transition hitting. So we're getting a lot of opportunities, but we're obviously not converting when we need to. So as far as those guys digging balls, I expect them to do that because they do it every day in practice, and they expect to do that as well. We just need to pick up our transition hitting a little bit, and I think that we can take that match, and moving forward into UCLA, I think we'll give them a handful.
Now, set 5 was pretty much just a back-and-forth battle. It was like a heavyweight boxing match. You all led, and then they led. It was just a one-point battle throughout the majority of the set, and then they unfortunately kind of pulled away throughout the late stages of that fifth set. What could you say about that fifth set, and how proud of you all were you, or how proud of you of your team in that fifth set of how you pretty much fought tooth and nail in that fifth?
Yeah, extremely proud for our guys. Anytime you can compete and have a chance to win, that's all you're asking as a coach. All you're asking is for your athletes to give you everything that they have, and that's absolutely what we did tonight. We came up just a little bit short, but I'm confident that we keep putting ourselves in that position. We will start to turn a couple of those and win a couple matches.
That was my post-game interview with Riley Salmon, head men's volleyball coach at Concordia-Irvine. So, yeah, Concordia is right there when it comes to winning some of these matches. And you saw last week where they went up to Hawaii. Yes, obviously, they lost both those matches to Hawaii, but in that first match, they were able to take a set off of Hawaii. Granted, Hawaii did rest a few of their starters, but they're getting there. Like, they're starting to put it together. And yes, they've got UCLA, and then they've got Princeton, and then Damon, which they should be able to win that one. They might be able to win that one. And then they've got a road tilt against GCU and Stanford. Ooh, that's gonna be a little interesting right there. That's gonna be a little tough right there. And then they've got Pepperdine and USC to close out the regular season. Now the USC one on paper could be winnable just because USC is young, but I talked to Riley and Ben Roseman about that, the SID. I feel that could be winnable for them. I'm not trying to say that USC is going to lose that one, but you got to remember, Concordia had their season ended by USC last season, so it's just some food for thought. But we'll see what happens with the Golden Eagles going forward. I do feel they're right there, and it wouldn't be surprising if they were to push a team to at least 4, but we'll see what happens. So that's that for the NCAA Men's Volleyball Week 8 recap. Before I move on from that Men's Volleyball Week 8 recap, I have to give a shout-out to FDU's, or Fairleigh Dickinson's, Jack Lydon, who had a monster performance against Merrimack last week, as he actually scored 25 points, being 21 kills and 4 service aces, which was actually, the 25 points were actually a match, which actually tied a match program record, which was set by Jack Lydon himself last season. So this was courtesy of the head coach, Carl France, who posted this on his Instagram story. So thank you to Carl France for informing me of this. So congratulations to Jack Lydon and his monster performance this past weekend against Merrimack. So I wanted to give a little shout out to FDU and Jack Lydon's 21 kills and 4 service aces performance last weekend. So gotta show him a little love. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, I do want to go over this week's AVCA Top 15 Men's Volleyball National Collegiate Coaches Poll. So we'll start off from 15 through 11. So 15 through 11 consists of Charleston at 15, CSUN at 14, Ohio State at 13, Ball State at 12, and USC at 11. 10 through 6 consists of Stanford at 10, Loyola at 9, BYU at 8, Pepperdine at 7, and UC Irvine at 6. 5 through 1 consists of Grand Canyon at 5, Long Beach State at 4, Penn State at 3, UCLA at 2, and your still number 1 team in the AVCA National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Coaches Poll is Hawaii. So the top 8 didn't change. Loyola went up 1 just because Stanford lost to USC, which was a big win for those Trojans, snapping that 5-match losing streak and getting their first MPSF win of the 2023 season. Ball State lost to Purdue of Fort Wayne, Ball State didn't lose. Ball State almost lost to Lindenwood, but they also beat Quincy in 3 last Saturday. Ohio State lost to Lindenwood. Charleston, like I said, they lost to George Mason. Lindenwood is receiving votes. Purdue of Fort Wayne also is receiving votes. And CSUN is all alone at 14. Last week, as we all remember, Charleston and CSUN were lumped together at 14, but now Charleston is the clear consensus number 15. So that is that for the AVCA National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Coaches Poll for February 27th. Before I head to a commercial break, I actually have to I have to go serious mode right here. So this last Tuesday, this is being recorded on Tuesday, February 28th. So last Tuesday, February 21st, was kind of a sad day in the volleyball world. Whether it's the high school boys volleyball world or whether it's the collegiate volleyball world, on the men's side of things. Either way, the volleyball world lost a giant. And that giant was none other than Rocky Ciarelli. So Rocky was an absolute stud. He played collegiate volleyball at Long Beach State University, and he was also an assistant coach at Long Beach State, and I think he was also an assistant coach at USC. but he was also a fantastic high school volleyball coach, as he was a fantastic coach at Huntington Beach High School. He won 2 CIF Southern Section championships back in 1993 and 1994 with Huntington Beach on the boys' side. Then he won a CIF Southern Section championship on the girls' side with Huntington Beach in 1996, being their only CIF Southern Section championship. Then, fast forward to 2019, he wound up winning a CIF Southern Section and CIF SoCal Regional and Max Preps National Championship with Newport Harbor High School and with his nephew Dane Chalmers, which I felt fortunate to be a part of, as I got to cover that on my own terms, as that team went 39-1, which was the school record. And honestly, Rocky Ciarelli was just an overall amazing person, and it was so sad. It was so sad to get this news. So it was basically around 3:53 when I got the call from one of my good friends and one of Rocky's friends, and at first, I was told, I have bad news for you, Teran. And it's like, oh no. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, is this a joke or something? And then he's like, no, this isn't a joke. And he's like, Rocky Ciarelli passed away. It's like, oh no. I was like, no way, dude. And it just really broke my heart. At first, it just didn't sink in, but now it just hurt me, man. It just broke my heart. He passed away as he suffered from a heart attack on the golf course in Fountain Valley in the morning, which it's just so sad, dude. And he was only 66 when he passed away, and man, he just passed away so soon, and he leaves behind so much. Like, he leaves behind his grandkids, and he leaves behind his family, and obviously his nephew, Dane Chalmers, is in his senior year with UC Santa Barbara. It's just so sad that he just suddenly passed away. And I just feel like I just saw him recently, but it actually has been a while since I've seen him. And the dude was just such a bright spot. Like, I remember, and I just feel so sad for his wife, Cammie. Like, that's the one who I'm really hurting for the most, just because I don't think anyone saw this. Like, I think he was healthy for the most part, and then suddenly this happens. And it just straight up sucks. It just straight up is just heartbreaking. So, I actually wound up, this quote from Alan Knipe. I actually went to, something I normally do on Mondays is I actually go to the press conferences at Long Beach State, and this was a very, very good quote said by Alan Knipe. He actually opened his press conference with a tribute to Rocky Ciarelli. He didn't go full on detail, but here was a quote taken straight up from it. It says, "Not only was Rocky Ciarelli a great player when he played here, he was an assistant coach here. He was a long time and one of the best high school coaches ever at Huntington Beach High School, then at Newport Harbor. Newport Harbor High School. He was a lot more to the program than just a coach and just a player. He was a long time alum who supported the program every year with the love and spirit of what it meant to be a 49er. He was on the inaugural board of the Wall of Honor Committee and was the chair of that. He was just a big part of Long Beach volleyball. To the entire Ciarelli, we pass along our condolences." And that was just beautifully said from Alan Knipe. And I'm glad that Alan Knipe started that off. He even told the SID, Lindy Zamora, he wanted to start off with that. But he didn't want to go into full-on details. So I too pass along my condolences to Rocky Ciarelli and Rocky Ciarelli's family, the entire Ciarelli family, the Chalmers family, the Huntington Beach Oiler family, the Newport Harbor High School family, and anyone that was connected with Rocky Ciarelli. For my personal story with Rocky Ciarelli, I first met Ciarelli back when I was at Orange Coast College. Travis Turner, the current men's volleyball coach at Orange Coast College, he introduced me to him, and I was like, okay, you're Rocky Ciarelli, and I didn't know who he was at first, and it was like, oh, you're a Huntington Beach guy. Oh, okay. But then he eventually told me that Newport Harbor, my alma mater, was eventually going to be really good at boys volleyball, and he said, just wait on it. And he eventually he eventually prophesized that to being really correct, and it's like, good job, man. That aside, Ciarelli also helped lead Orange Coast College. He was also an assistant coach for Orange Coast College's men's volleyball team back in 2014 when they wound up winning the state championship, which I thought was downright impressive. And bottom line is this: Rocky Ciarelli helped turn everything into gold. Everything he touched, he turned into gold. And honestly, I'm so honored to call him my friend, and I really am going to miss him, and I just feel so sad for the entire Ciarelli family. I'm so crushed for not only his wife, Cammie, the entire Ciarelli family, the Long Beach State family, the entire volleyball community, for everyone that loved Ciarelli, but basically for his friends like Dan Glenn, Mike D'Alessandro, Tom Pestalacy. It just seems so all of a sudden. Like, it just seems so soon. So please join me in a moment of silence to honor Rocky Ciarelli as we give himself a quick 30 seconds following his passing. Thank you. May you rest in everlasting peace, Rocky. I will miss you. See you soon. We'll be right back after this. This is Teran Rodriguez, bringing you the second half of Set Point right after this. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Harrison Glazer, and we're coming at you from the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. I cover the Jets, the Islanders, the Nets, and the Yankees.
This is Pierre Moss, and I cover the Mets, Knicks, Rangers, and the Giants.
Our show is live every Wednesday through Spreaker and a bunch of other ways to get our content. Again, we're the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. We talk about all those New York sports. It's a lot of fun. We get into all of it. Please tune in. Again, that's Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
And we look forward to having you guys right here on 90 Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter, at any time. Be happy to reply. always willing to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, as Tuesday night is basically our big night of shows, as we have a lot of shows going on later on in the evening, as the Buffalo Huddle kicks us off at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern, with Patty Bax, as she talks about the human element of sports and Buffalo sports with a twist. Then after that, we have Philly Sports Talk with Chris Amos and Bobby Cash. Then we have the Neutral Zone with Adam Karnick and Zach Puplis. And then closing out the night, we have Cale Henderson with Sin City Sports, as those shows following Patty Bax go on an hour after her. So definitely check out all of those shows. It's basically the IE Sports Radio Tuesday Power Hour. But with all that said and done, let's get on into segment number 2 of Set Point. So, last week was the first week of the NCAA Beach Volleyball season, and as much as I want to get on into a full-on detail of the beach volleyball season, the NCAA website sadly isn't really going to cover the beach volleyball season, which straight up sucks, dude. It's like, really? So, basically, the NCAA... I told you all that the NCAA website, or the NCAA isn't going to be covering NCAA men's volleyball, which is stupid. And is it not going to be covering NCAA women's volleyball as well? Or NCAA beach volleyball as well? But because I really want to have more organized beach volleyball than this, and all I really got to see was I didn't really get to see too many big upsets. The top 5 did not see any upsets. TCU didn't get upset. LSU didn't get upset. USC didn't get upset. UCLA certainly didn't get upset. And Florida State did not get upset. But of those top 5 teams that I just mentioned, one team nearly did get upset, and that team was actually USC. As, believe it or not, USC actually got taken to the brink of nearly losing, as USC actually had to go right down to the wire, as they actually, did I say GCU? Or I'm sorry, if I did say GCU, then that was my mistake. LSU is a part of that top 5 echelon. So LSU didn't get upset, TCU didn't get upset, USC didn't get upset, and then Florida State didn't get upset. But you get the point. The top 5 did not get upset. They didn't lose a match. But back to where I was getting at. So USC nearly got upset. And believe it or not, they almost lost to Long Beach State of all teams. I was very surprised at this. I was like, okay, I know Long Beach State has a decent beach volleyball team. I'm not trying to say it's the greatest team of all time, but it's not a bad team. It actually did win a championship before it was classified as an NCAA championship. But overall, it's I was very surprised by this. Now, there were rainy conditions. I think it was also snowing as well. So, overall for this, and they were also kind of pushed against GCU as well. But GCU is good. GCU is right knocking on that door of the top 5 of the AVCA coaches poll, which actually just got released for this week. But back to USC, the fact that it did have to come down to the final court did really surprise me against Long Beach State. And Long Beach State last week came in checking in at number 14, which was okay, that's just very surprising. So kudos to Long Beach State, who unfortunately opened up the season with a loss to GCU. They lost 3-2, but it was way over by the time the meet was over. They already saw their third pair lose. So the last 2 pairs that were playing just were for fun. It was just basically for fun altogether. So it was you could just you 2 pairs could just lose out, and then it wouldn't have any consequence. So the fact that Long Beach State was able to push USC is quite impressive. But for USC, they have an impressive team. Now, granted, it's not impressive as it was last year. Obviously, they lost Haley Harward to graduation, which is obviously a big loss. And they obviously lost Tina Gradina to graduation as well. But it's still rather impressive that this team still remains consistent. Meanwhile, everyone still thinks that UCLA is still an underdog, while they're still number 1. While they're number 1 in the nation, which is very surprising, but I digress on that. So, for USC Beach Volleyball, it's shocking that they nearly lost to a team outside of the top 10, but hey, it's still a win. They started off 2-0, and they're actually still undefeated in season openers. So, hats off to the women of Troy in beach volleyball. So, good on them. So, looking at USC's roster, some notables that do stand out that I do have to make note of are the twins who the twins that I could not know for the love of me are the Norse twins, Nicole and Audrey. And then, obviously, they have Megan Kraft and Delaney Maple. Those 2 are definitely noteworthy as well. And then, keep an eye out for Maddie Shields, who might be able to make a contribution. She transferred from Pepperdine. She is making the transition from indoor volleyball to outdoor, which I think is quite interesting if you ask me. But again, it's still early in the season, so we'll see what happens when it comes to this little matchup right here. But overall, I think winning both. I think beating GCU was kind of a big one as well, just because GCU was number 6, and if they lost that one, I think that could have kind of been the criticizer one, where everyone could have questioned if Long Beach State, or if not Long Beach State, if USC was actually kind of good. And that win over Long Beach State was actually Dane Blanton's 75th win. Was Dane Blanton's 75th win, which I was actually surprised, which is breaking news to me. But again, Delaney Maple and Megan Kraft are your top pair to watch for the Trojans, while the Norse twins are definitely ones to watch for. And like I said, the Madison girls, Maddie Shields and Madison White, are also one to watch for I met Maddie Shields back in the AVP tournament in Huntington Beach. So so I think USC has a lot of upside. It's just they're just going to be a complete work in progress. And I really thought Maddie Shields, I think she's a dog, and that's kind of the reason why she has the nickname Mad Dog. But I'm a little surprised that it kind of came down to her court. So the fact that it came down to her kind of speaks volumes of how she came in clutch, and I really think that USC can make noise, but again, it's just going to be a work in progress for the Trojans. They still have the other talented teams to take on, such as UCLA. And the entire Pac-12 is vastly improved. One team I think that is improved that everyone is really hyping up is Washington. I think Washington can really do some damage, and apparently one of their pairs got Pair of the Week, or the AVCA Pair of the Week. And speak of the devil, USC gets to play Washington this weekend in the Pac-12 South Invitational, as they have Cal and Stanford on Saturday, and then they have Washington and UCLA on Sunday. And then next week, they have the Battle for Los Angeles as they play Long Beach State and Concordia-Irvine, and then they have another matchup with Stanford and Cal Poly, which Stanford, I think, is also a team to watch for. Yes, Stanford lost to UCLA last week in the... I don't know the name of the Hawaii tournament, but it's they lost in Hawaii to UCLA, which basically just beat everybody, like St. Mary's in Hawaii. But I digress. And looking at USC's schedule, they also play TCU. That's going to be a tough one. They also play LSU and Florida State in the East meets West Invitational at the end of the month. Man, that's a tough schedule. And then they've got the Pac-12 North Invitational, which that might not be as too bad, but Arizona State looks daunting. Then they've got the Center of Effort Challenge, which they've got LMU, which is going to be tough. And then Florida State again, Long Beach State again, Cal Poly again. They've got UCLA to close out the season on the 20th, as well as LMU. So USC is going to get a lot of bang for their buck, and I hope for their sake they can keep up with some of the tough competition. So that's that for USC Beach Volleyball, and again, I wish I could have organized this a little bit better. I wish the NCAA could organize their little matchup calendar a whole lot better. I just like how the NCAA just is so poorly organized in terms of their score matchups. But I digress. Anyway, so for the AVCA Top 20 Beach Volleyball calendar, or the AVCA Top 20 Collegiate Beach Coaches Top 20 poll. So 20 through 16 consists of Coastal Carolina at 20, South Carolina at 19, Pepperdine at 18, Arizona at 17, and Washington at 16. 15 through 11 consists of FIU at 15, Long Beach State at 14, FAU at 13, Cal at 12, and Stetson at 11. 10 through 6 consists of Georgia State at 10, Hawaii at 9, LMU at 8, Stanford at 7, and GCU at 6. 5 through 1 consists of LSU at 5, USC at 4, TCU at 3, Florida State at 2, and your still number one team in the AVCA Collegiate Beach Coaches poll is UCLA. So this is no surprise just because UCLA basically just bowled over the competition. They have a lot of good places. They have a lot of good pieces on their team. And even though people are calling them the underdog, I think they look really, really promising. They went 6-0 last week, and I think they're not going to be they're going to be a team that no one wants to play come NCAA tournament time. Yes, they didn't really play the stiffest of competition. They only played Stanford and Hawaii as their stiff competition, but they're playing some good big-time opponents. And it's going to get tougher from here on out. Their standout players on their team they've got quite a number of standouts on their team. They've got Lexi Denneberg, they've got Jaden Whitmarsh, they've got Devin Newberry. The list goes on and on. They've got Abby and Tessa Van Winkle. They've got Lindsay Sparks, who I want to say she might be healed. I'm not sure. They've got Marley Monserez. Like I said, Lexi Denneberg is just phenomenal. And I don't mean to say this in a... I don't want to stir the pot with this, but she looks like she's really... She looks straight up strong. She looks like someone I would not want to see across the other side of that net. Like, she looks like someone I don't want to see. I don't want to be digging that ball, or I don't want to be basically attempting to block that ball. I just don't want to be blocking that ball. I just don't want to be. So good on Lexi Denneberg and all those other players. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Stein Metzger's team has in store for us. So congratulations to UCLA on winning the Duke Kahanamoku Beach Classic Championship in Hawaii. As Lexi Denneberg was the most outstanding player of the tournament, as Maggie Boyd was also the best defender in terms of the individual awards. So that's that for NCAA Beach Volleyball. So moving on from the NCAA, we're going to talk a little high school volleyball, and then we'll talk a little of NCAA women's volleyball, and then we'll get on out of here. So yesterday remember when I said I was out of the house throughout most of the day? I basically was seeing some high school volleyball. So I went to the Tesoro tournament, and it was basically in its final four. I got to PA announce the entire the semifinals. The semifinals, the third place match, and the finals. The semifinals consisted of Mater Dei versus Beckman and Edison versus Newport Harbor. Long story short, Beckman swept Mater Dei, and then Newport Harbor swept Edison. So in the final, it was Beckman versus Newport Harbor. Newport Harbor took the first set 25-17 because they're Newport Harbor. They were the number one seed overall. But then Beckman really came up strong in that second set, 25-22. They led by as many as 6, or was it 7 at one point. And I thought, I knew that they were the real deal. I knew Beckman was the real deal. They have some studs on their team, like Ryan Graves, Jack Graves, Luke Morrison, only a sophomore, Noah Huang, Noah Lee, the libero, he's solid. I just thought that they just needed to catch their second wind after that first set. And then the third set, Beckman kind of had a little bit of a sizable lead. Newport Harbor worked away at that lead, only was trailing by 2, 12-10, but eventually Beckman took that final set 15-11. Now Newport Harbor has some stud players of their own. They've got Jake Reed heading to Loyola Chicago. They've got Luca Curci heading to UCLA, and they've got some other stud players. Now to me, this is no disrespect to them. They don't have the James Eady-like player like they did last year, but honestly, they do have some horses. They do have some dogs on that team. They're going to be a little bit of a... And remember, last year they were also the Max Preps national champion. They weren't like 2019's team, but they have some dogs on that team. They do have that dog in them. And they do have a new head coach in Andrew Mabry, but he's technically not a new head coach. He's been with the program for 3 seasons? Ever since 2020? 3 seasons prior to being the head coach. But the bottom line is this: Beckman is a nationally ranked team. So why am I talking high school boys volleyball, you ask? Well, it's because of this. This week is the Best of the West tournament, and as of this recording, they actually just released their, the pools for the Best of the West tournament, which I think is surprising. So anyway, they just released the pools of the Best of the West tournament, and the pools are as follows. Pool 1 consists of Newport Harbor, Clovis East, Edison, and Sage Creek. Basically, Pool 1 is basically the top seed of each pool, and then it goes all the way down to the 4 seed. Pool 2 consists of Loyola of Los Angeles, Iolani of Hawaii, Thousand Oaks, and La Costa Canyon. Pool 3 consists of Corona del Mar, Sanger, Moana Lua, and Rancho Bernardo. Pool 4 consists of Miracosta, San Clemente, Scripps Ranch, and Mountain View. Pool 5 consists of Huntington Beach, Torrey Pines, Buchanan, and Tesoro. Pool 6 consists of Beckman, St. Francis, Carlsbad, and Dos Pueblos. Pool 7 consists of Mater Dei, Highland, Kamehameha, Kapalama, and Del Norte. And Pool 8 consists of Santa Barbara, Servite, and Westview, and Mountain View of Arizona. So basically, Newport Harbor is the number 1 overall seed of this tournament, despite losing yesterday. Now, Beckman actually lost a match yesterday, or not yesterday. Beckman actually lost prior to the Tesoro tournament, and now it's to Huntington Beach. Now, Beckman is not in the Best of the West tournament, which I kind of find saddening because I think Beckman would have been a great addition to the Best of the West tournament just because they have such a talented team this year. But I guess that's a Darren McBain thing. I kind of forgot to ask Darren McBain about that yesterday. Oops. It's all good, though. I'll see Darren McBain sometime down the road. I'll probably see him next week, and maybe I'll try to get him on the show, but I digress. Anyway, for Best of the West, this is one of the more prestigious high school boys volleyball tournaments, and I really think that this is going to be the biggest question to end all questions for some of these high school teams. Like, for me, in terms of the CIF Southern section, this is going to answer all the questions. Which team is the cut above the rest? I think it's wide open in the CIF Southern section, just because for Newport Harbor, Loyola, Corona del Mar, Miracosta, Mater Dei, and Huntington Beach, I think it could be wide open for any of those teams. Now, for Mater Dei, last week, they did lose their setter, Cole Schobel, who I don't remember where he committed to. I want to say he committed to Loyola. I'm not entirely certain. But I will say this, losing Cole Schobel is a huge loss for that team. Yes, Cole Schobel committed to Loyola of Chicago, and God, that is such a horrible loss for Mater Dei. That's the bad news. The good news is that Mater Dei is expected to get Cole Schobel back sometime down the road this season. It is a knee injury, but he is expected to come back, which is good. So he didn't really tear his ACL, but it just sucks that it's his senior year, and the dude practically single-handedly led Mater Dei to victory last year. So I hope he does make a speedy recovery, just because the dude is going to be vital for Mater Dei's success. But back to the CIF Southern section, and for all those teams that I pretty much just mentioned, I think it's going to be wide open. Now, I should also mention Tesoro. I think Tesoro is also pretty good as well. The problem is that they're not at full strength, and that's because one of their other players, Nathan Draper, is not playing because he's a part of the Tesoro boys basketball team, and they're still playing because I guess their boys basketball team is pretty good. But Nathan Draper, I don't know where he's going to. I want to say maybe he's going to BYU. I saw him with a BYU sweater on yesterday. I don't know where he's going to, but I don't know if he's committed or not. But either way, Nathan Draper is a fantastic player. He was part of Tesoro's CIF Southern Section Championship team last year. He is not playing, but once he is playing for Tesoro, I think Tesoro will be much better. Like, Tesoro, I want to say, finished somewhere along the lines of tied for 5th in their tournament, because they lost in the quarterfinals on Saturday, and it was a tough loss for them. But honestly, I think Speraw is kind of that under-the-radar team, and once they get their full team back, I think they will be something to watch for. But time will tell for Tesoro. So overall, for those CIF Southern Section teams and those top CIF Southern Section teams, I think the Best of the West tournament is going to answer all those questions to see who is really the top dog. I would not be surprised to see any team pulling an upset on day 2. But we'll see. I mean, Loyola... Now, I don't think Loyola is going to be bad. I feel Loyola might not be as bad as most people give them credit for, just because, yes, they lost Dylan Klein and a bunch of other guys to graduation, but they do have Shawn Kelly, who is legit, and he was part of that U19 team that back in the summer. And then Miracosta has a lot of really good guys. They've got Victor Loyola, who committed to Long Beach State, and then they've got, I forget his name, but he is a 6'9" setter who is super talented. And Miracosta brings back a lot of really talented players. And Huntington Beach has a lot of good guys on their team as well, like Liam Finizzi, Jake Pizzanti, who is Craig's son, and I forget the kid's first name, but it's like something Pham. It's like Ben Bray. I was thinking Ben Pham, but it's Ben Bray. That's his name. But Liam Finizzi is another guy that's going to Loyola of Chicago. So yeah, Loyola is going to be eating well next season once they get all these Orange County guys. But I'm digressing here. I digress. But either way, back to close on the Best of the West tournament. I think Best of the West is wide open, and I want to say whoever wins that tournament is going to have a leg ahead of everybody else in terms of who is really going to be the true best of the best in terms of CIF Southern Section. And even if whoever wins that tournament is going to even if whoever wins that Best of the West tournament, I don't think that's going to really solidify them as the true best. I think it's just going to be a barometer of where everyone's at, because this is only the second week of the high school volleyball season in Southern California. But we'll see what happens going forward, just because everyone is still trying to shake off all the cobwebs and the rust. But I think everyone is starting to get all their sea legs and whatnot. But we'll see. Alright, so that's that for some high school volleyball talk. So I have been forgetting about this news for quite a bit, and I am kicking myself for forgetting all this, for forgetting this little bit of coaching news. But I want to give a huge shout out to Shawn Huiet of Texas State, as he actually signed a 5-year contract extension through to the 2027 season, which I think is absolutely amazing. So I think this is huge, just because he was the successor prior to the Karen Cheeseum era. So I think he's well deserving of it, first of all. I think he was the perfect guy to replace Karen Cheeseum, just because you can't replace Karen Cheeseum. She was the longest tenured head coach in NCAA women's volleyball history. So the fact that Shawn Huiet got a contract extension is quite phenomenal. So I think it's well deserved on his part, and I really think that he's going to do great things with Texas State. Yes, Texas State missed the NCAA tournament, but honestly, they were still first 3 teams out. So I think for Texas State, I think they landed the great one, and I think it's going to continue to do great things. So I do want to give a congratulations to Shawn Huiet. I know I have been forgetting about that every so often, but honestly, good for him, and he's going to continue to do great things with Texas State. Alright, so that's that for that little bit of NCAA women's volleyball coaching news. So before I head on out, there is one last bit of NVA news I want to go over. Because yes, there is NVA news I needed to go over. That's right, Teran Rodriguez, have some NVA news because Teran Rodriguez, am your one-stop shop for all things NVA news. So, this past weekend, I do want to give a congratulations to Gianluca Grasso of the Texas Tyrants, Sam Burgee of the San Diego Wild, and Josh Eisenberg, also of the San Diego Wild, as they also won. As those three won the Israel Super Cup, as they were all teammates of the Maccabi Tel Aviv Volleyball Club, as they won first place in that tournament in the CEV Challenge Cup Finals, which I think is quite amazing, as they all represented USC and UCLA, at least for Grasso's sake, he represented USC, and Burgee's sake, he represented UCLA. So, congratulations to those three for representing the NVA and for representing the Israel Super Cup. They were able to get the job done in the CEV Challenge Cup Finals. So they managed to win the finals via a sweep, which was awesome sauce, and I'm happy they were able to get the job done. So that is pretty much that for that little bit of volleyball news, and season is not too far away, as we have just about a month away from the NVA, as yes, April is right around the corner, and I hope I'm not going to get canceled for this. I was told, I gave you all a little bit of a quick teaser of what you all should expect from the NVA, and I guess I'll probably just spoil the surprise. So, at the beginning of March, the NVA website is going to be getting a little bit of a makeover, as the old website is going to get taken down pretty much, and then the new website is going to get revamped, and it's going to get taken up, and then there's going to be, I guess I'll probably spoil it, there's going to be some previews that I pretty much took some time out of my life, and I wouldn't say take some time out of my life. I took some time out, and I did on my own time. So, yeah, the website is going to be up at the beginning of March from what I was told, and we're going to have some previews from certain teams. So, definitely keep a lookout for that new NVA website, and definitely keep an eye out for those NVA previews. So that's pretty much that for that NVA news, as this is Teran Rodriguez of the NVA with your one-stop shop for all things NVA news. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for me to drop the beat, because I'm about to dip like a banana in chocolate. You feel me? Thank you everyone for tuning in to Set Point. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I really appreciate you. For those that also listen on the replay, I appreciate you. Big salute to you all. I promise you all I will be back on my regular time. Don't worry, I'm not switching to Tuesdays at noon Pacific time. I'm not going anywhere. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. This Friday, I will be at Long Beach State for the Long Beach State-Ball State matchup. And this Sunday, I will be at UC Irvine for the UC Irvine-Penn State men's volleyball matchup. Keep on the lookout for my men's volleyball matchups to watch for. But until then, have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy the volleyball action. And I will see you Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Peace!